I would like to welcome everyone, especially Jill, for being here. Thank you everyone for being here today. Everybody has an agenda, copy of the agenda and information. First action is approval of the minutes. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes? Even if you haven't, will you make a motion to approve them? Make a motion. Okay, is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye. Aye. I think that's unanimous, okay. Okay, this didn't take long. At this time, we need to go into closed session pursuant to subsection 143-318-11A5 of the General Statutes of North Carolina to discuss the amount of compensation and other material terms of an employment contract or proposed employment contract. So do I have a motion? We go into closed session as stated.
So moved.
Second. Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Okay.
You want me here or not here? Seems like, I'm not sure, you just tell me what to do.
I thought we wanted him here so that we
Well, we
could
want him here.
present
Okay.
with us so that he
All right.
can comment.
Okay.
You good to go? Okay. Okay, Brian, great negotiation discussions.
I'm gonna keep this short and sweet too. We had two really separate but related conversations with DHHS around both approaches the state has used that, in our opinion, I guess we would use the word arbitrary, manner in which rate changes have been exercised by the state. And by that, it's the state saying, okay, your per member per month that you get, like your premium payment, we're changing that because of this. So we asked some pretty hard questions around why they were doing that in some situations and why they weren't in other situations. That was one whole category of polite questioning that we engaged in with DHHS. Separate but related had to do with the expense associated with this is the way we've come to talk about this, the three phases of consolidation with Western. The transition, the startup, and the closeout. And the total tab on that, Lisa, is 4.7,
In total, it was 5.4 million.
in case anybody was counting. And this is what's been, tough, Chuck, because I know that there's, still, as there should be, pride in the Western program and how well you were doing or what was good or what was bad. This part of it is it cost $5 million to get this fixed and put back together and going forward. So it hasn't always been something we've been shouting at the top of our lungs. But with the state, we started off very early on saying, this is going to be really hard and it's going to cost a lot of money. And they said, yeah, okay, we know. We're okay. And rejected our initial request for funding. And boy, aren't we glad they did.
We are, because we asked for, I think, 400,000 of the 2 or 3 million at that time we estimated.
Correct.
Do you remember
Is that
we
the
took that
conference?
strategy?
On what?
Yeah, we said, oh, it's this much, but if you'll just give us this much, we'd be happy.
Right.
We
Boy.
would have honored the 400,000.
Just a little bit more.
So, but back then you couldn't really know what you were gonna get into. But it's very costly. And just by comparison, I know that Pam Chipman at Cardinal has shared with me, they expect their assumption of Mecklenburg to be in the $4 million range, over $4 million. And again, people, they just have no idea what's involved with this, how expensive it is. So all of this merger and stuff, all this big talk, you be careful what you wish for. So, a lot of discussion, months of back and forth with the state around, you know, you took an action. The state terminated a contract and awarded it to us. And as a result of that action, there's a $5 million tab. And there isn't any, the way our contract is written, the way all the contracts are written with the MCOs, I don't think anybody necessarily thought about this back then. You know, that this day could come and, you know, somewhere along the line, it's gonna cost somebody a lot of money. Now Tara would say that, you know, in their other contracts, you know, big contracts that the state has, I mean, there's always that consideration. I mean, when you change something this big, it's gonna cost somebody a lot of money. So there's provisions to do that, just never was any with this. And they didn't really feel there's a way in the rate to do this. And we fought this out kind of at a lower level, and finally they said, no, this is your rate, and we said, okay, we want to appeal it, which I'm not sure anyone has ever really done. We signed the rate letter, and again, this is kind of the technical part of it, we signed it under protest. You know, wrote a nice, of course, Tracy wrote a nice little thing saying, yeah, we're agreeing to this rate, but, and they said, okay, well, you can come back to Raleigh and you can talk to us about it. And we had a chance to do that on the Friday before Christmas at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So we made a day trip to Raleigh, presented this information, and I guess we must have done a pretty good job because they said, you know, submit some financial information in a different manner. And Lisa did a phenomenal job with that. We went up there this last week and they basically said, yeah, you know, we need to find a way to cover this. So, you know, it's not gonna come like in a big check. There's certain activities to amortize, will depreciate the expense. And, you know, I mean, without boring you into all of that, it's just the way we show this expense over a period of time. I mean, they, you know, gave us a verbal that they're gonna address it in the form of a rate adjustment post and going forward.
How long does it take to recoup that
A couple of years.
Yeah, the capital outlay, we're having to amortize, but the rest, they're gonna let us charge it out directly.
I think their goal was also to maximize the federal match that they could get, so that's why they wanted to do it this way, which benefits everyone. I mean, would you agree, Lisa?
Yes, and I also think it's probably just not such a significant adjustment to the rate all at once, you know, so it can be spread out. And I just told Brian that, I can't remember if it's 3 or 5 years, but it's one of the two, Michael, for how far out you have to extend it.
And it's probably their way of also not raising any eyebrows and red flags.
Very good consideration around that. So, boy, this was big,
It's a win.
big.
Big one. Good job.
So, that's that. The Western Highlands closeout, well, we did have, let's see, we had 3 meetings on Tuesday, that was one of them. And Chuck, this is, you know, just a whole issue, and I did talk to you folks about it at one point. There was a, you know, there was a really bad day once over on Biltmore Avenue when we, I guess, realized that, you know, that Western, in their inability to file what are called encounter claims for Medicaid, basically the way the state knows that the money was used for services and how it was used. It's the way they keep tabs on it, and then they have to submit information to the federal government for their share. That Western had not been able to do that, and in addition, had to transform data to pay providers. And the good part about this is that there's nothing about this that was fraudulent, or we'll say, I don't even want to use the illegal word, that's not the right context, but it was done in an effort to keep payments going to providers. It was a huge mistake, okay? And also, there was no correction that could be done to it. So the state and us, kind of found ourselves, like what I told them, like we're in the same lifeboat here. So we're gonna have to make accommodations for how you can receive this information in a way that will be good enough and serve the purposes for which it is intended, but with an understanding that it is imperfect, always will be imperfect, and cannot be corrected. And we're gonna have to find a way to live with all of that. Now, we're talking about $200 million. Okay, this is not a small little thing either. And, had an initial meeting, and you remember, Chuck, we reported about that, and basically had a handshake deal over how we could do this in a way everybody could live with. And this meeting Tuesday was to go back and say, okay, you remember we had this agreement. We're now ready to start doing it. That meaning submitting this claims documentation. Here's the fashion in which we want to do it. We just want to make sure everybody's on board with this, and this is all going to be good, because it's a big, it's a very special project, let's say, for the state and for us. So that was also, a very successful meeting. So we're all good with all of that. Western Regional Partnership, I think we talked about that. Media relations. Combination of things here with Shelley, being out so much, and with us being so busy focusing on the transition and just all the work to accomplish that and kind of get better at everything we're doing, we really put a lot of things aside in terms of our development as a company. We retarded, I think, certain parts of who we're becoming. And one of those elements has to do with, whatever you want to call it, marketing, community education, public relations. And I learned of this company, and I think I mentioned this before, Edelman, very sophisticated outfit. Look on their website and their client list, and there's this startup company, Microsoft, and I think it's Saudi Arabia, country of Saudi Arabia, Starbucks, GE, some of their smaller accounts. They have a healthcare division, and just very sophisticated folks, and started working with them to kind of make a foundation of, how do we do this? Given this organization that we've become, how do we talk about ourselves? How do we do that in a consistent manner? What are the messages we want to get out there? Instead of just always reacting to a reporter calling because they got a question about, Richard Craver, who's going to be the boss and where the office is going to be. We're going to lead the conversation. Here's what we want to say about Smokey or about an issue, and how do we channel that, with different audiences. So it's been great working with them. We did I guess you could call it a press release of sorts, which is basically a story, that we wrote, and it's in the handouts there. The main point of this was to kind of catch people up on, what we've done, that things were in good shape, and there's all this clamor about what's going to happen, consolidation, Medicaid reform. In the meantime, we're working really hard to take care of folks, and that's an important message. So we did, we released that. They managed all of this for us. We had, I did an interview, well, myself and Tracy and Christina and Julie, Rhonda and Jenny all sat with Julie Ball and did an interview with her. And as a matter of fact, that story's in the paper, I think yesterday, Asheville Citizen Times. And then we did basically a phone conference call. There were 10 reporters signed up to do it, and people just, because they had this in front of them, and they do an embargo, it's an agreement that, nobody can print anything until, it was like Friday, at 12:01, so everybody kind of has an equal chance to talk about it. And so we did all of that, and then we get from Edelman a report every few days on how many articles have been written on it, and I think the latest one, I'm not sure there was even another one this morning.
Pennsylvania.
If this is the latest one, but they give us this report on the stories, what the content of the stories was, kind of the good and the bad and all of that. So I'm going to let you know about that. And we'll just continue building all of this, with them. In fact, they have come up with new logos for us. And, we've been in this discussion about a new name, which is kind of, what we promised to do. And here we are now in the middle of this Western Region thing. That would be, we're gonna go change our name, given it's gonna change again in a year. And that's not gonna make people very happy. We kind of put that on hold. But all of those, Edelman has come up with, I just never shared them with you, different logos that, we kind of went through some sessions with them to generate ideas for graphics that we could use like that. So, I'm just going to continue on with them. They've really professionalized, this part of what we're doing, and it's just, building now, building. So,
The answer to this question doesn't matter, because I think you made a good decision. But I'm just curious, on an annual basis, what would their services probably cost us? And again, I'm just curious, not so much.
Do you remember? It's kind of a phased thing. I think there's like 3 phases of it, and the first was to kind of get us up on the, with our heads above water and do this part.
We can find out and get that.
Yeah, it's not critical. I was just curious, because I think you made a good decision.
I mean, they're a real soup to nuts kind of place. I mean, if they wanted to,
Sounds good. Yeah.
they could come in and staff this whole part of what we do. We're
Do
gonna
they have
hire
a local presence, or?
Atlanta as their closest office.
Okay.
I mean, they drive, get in the car and drive up here and,
Wow.
yeah.
They did some really great media training that
Oh,
I
that
thought
too.
was fantastic, for staff who are gonna have more regular interaction with the press. It was really, it was very well done in terms of, here are some suggested ways to, get the story to be more favorable, to get your point of view across instead of, and
Yeah.
then they ended it with some, okay, we're gonna practice. And so it was very helpful.
So that's about media relations. Reconstituted board of directors. Okay, what we need, what I need to know, if we go through the list, okay, Jill, let me sit down there with you.
You need the list, please?
Yeah, is it?
Yeah, it's
Back
in
there.
here.
It's the last page of your packet.
Someone, Rick, myself, whomever, I mean, let's just, that somebody, needs to start reaching out to folks that may or may not know that they're going to have the privilege of being on their board. And the first thing I want to do is go through and just see what we know about anybody knowing that. So Nancy Baker, yeah. And what we're doing, February, come on, Jill.
21st. Yeah.
February 21st, 22nd. February 21st is a Friday.
We're going to do our retreat.
It's here.
No, it's the Doubletree.
Okay, don't.
It's going to be a retreat/board meeting. And you know how we've done this before, where there's always some amount of business that we need to conduct. It'll be the first meeting of the new board.
And remind me, the Doubletree, is that the one over?
Exit 50.
Right next to Mayhew.
are
They
all over the
remodeled
place.
this for once.
So Friday night, for example, you know, we'd have some amount of short board meeting and then start the, kind of the orientation and do more of that on Saturday. And we can talk more about kind of what we're gonna do, but I wanna make sure we go through this.
Has the date been moved?
The 21st, 22nd?
Yes.
Yes.
Right,
That's
because
what
I
it
had,
is,
I had
What
been the
about-
20th.
I had the 28th.
Originally, it was the 28th, and that, we couldn't get a space available, I
Right.
think, and so.
Well, and also it
Plus
was
the first is NACO meeting and a lot of county commissioners may
Okay,
have
so
that
it's 21st and 22nd.
correct.
Friday and Saturday.
All right, Nancy Baker, she knows.
Okay.
And one of the things that Christina talked to me about this for the CFAC members, what, you know, we, or the CFAC representatives who are board members, it would be helpful at that orientation to have a staff member that works closely with them, just kind of be part of the proceedings. Be probably helpful for everybody. Ronnie Beal, he knows. Carl Klassen, he knows. Larry Cox, he knows. Casey Cooper, I told him, / talked him into it.
He knows.
Huh?
Then he knows.
Yeah, and I can, all right, let me just say that I'll follow up with him, okay? Carolyn Coward, she got the good news, Jay?
Yeah, I asked her before
Okay.
I proposed her, and she agreed to it.
Okay,
Now, she probably needs to be
Of course.
put in on this new date, so.
okay.
Are we gonna send some sort of,
That's what I'm figuring out. I would be happy, you know, maybe on behalf of Rick and I, we'd send something to all of these folks, okay? But before I even do that, some of them I might, you know, we might
Make
want to
sure they
call
know.
first.
Yeah.
yeah,
So they're saying, what? Okay.
Congratulations.
I'll call Casey, I'll call Carolyn, Joyce Edwards, she knows. Does Maggie Faulkner know?
She does.
She does. Okay, and I guess I could give her
She
a
won't be
call.
blindsided with an email reminding her.
Pardon?
She won't be blindsided
Okay.
to send an email reminding
All
her.
right,
She's aware.
okay. I'll touch base with her. Rick French, he knows. Vicki Green, she knows. And Jeff Heck, does he know anything at all about it?
That's a call for sure.
Yeah, that's a
Absolutely.
call for Brian.
Yeah.
Now, Mandy has been the one who reached out to him, so I don't know what he knows or thinks or anything. And there's a potential conflict of interest here too, we'll have to kind of get through.
Dr. Martin does a lot of work with him too. So Dr. Martin has said something to him, just here's
Okay.
he's gonna be on the board, but.
and admissions compliance officer is gonna have to sign, it's gonna go
Absolutely.
both ways. Does anybody know which of these, weren't two of these individuals non-voting?
Yes, just let me think about it. It's been a while since I looked at this.
I feel like it was Casey Cooper, one of them. And then Duncan Sumter, because
Yeah,
there's
he's
two
not-
providers.
Yeah,
I think it was Casey and Duncan Sumter.
That makes sense.
Okay, thank you.
Judy knows, I'm assuming through Brian talking to her, correct?
Hopefully.
No, the other Judy, Judy Hansen.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Yes, she knows.
Okay, we haven't gotten to you yet, Judy. Michael Lavender, he knows, he's proud as punch. Pat knows,
Yeah.
Marsh knows, Judy Poe knows. Now, was it you, Chuck, that told me that this guy Craig Sappenfield couldn't or wouldn't or wasn't going to, or?
I believe that was Carl. Carl
Okay.
said that he would not because of his job with the association.
Okay, so I think we just draw a line through this, right? Okay, now what we want to do about this, let's get through all of this, and I guess, you know, maybe we come back, or maybe when the new board, you know, first when they sit down, can start to say, all right, now what do we
That's
do?
the best thing to do.
Okay.
Let's do that.
The insurance guy that was just
Yeah. All right. And then we can talk about the interesting little factoid about the law that I think we figured out at the 11th hour too. Mandy Stone, she knows, Duncan knows, Ed knows, and Chuck knows, okay. So, there's two things that are gonna happen. I'm gonna call Casey, Carolyn, Maggie, and Jeff, and make personal contact with them. I mean, I feel that's important for me to do. And Rick, whatever you think, if you wanna do something too, you can. I know that's, for me, I should do that. And then, after that gets done, and I'll do that right away, send an email on behalf of Rick and I, welcoming them and talking to them about the retreat and the first board meeting, okay?
I want you to touch base with Carl just to make sure that there wasn't any change there, but I believe he said he would serve.
Carl?
Craig,
Yeah,
just
just
Craig or Carl?
Call Carl Clappin just to make sure.
Okay, how can you resist?
Huh?
You know something about it?
No, he's already, listen, he's already sent
No,
me
we're talking about Carl
emails.
Clappin's the one that recommended you, Carl.
Oh,
Carl Clappin.
okay.
And he's the one that said that they.
Man,
Say
I'm
call
gonna-
Carl to ask
Okay.
Craig
Yeah.
Sappin.
Oh,
Jerry's
okay.
still got
I
it.
will.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but I believe-
Carl's got an email to me already asking when the first board meeting is,
Yeah.
so he's energetic, enthusiastic about his participation. Okay, good. What else?
The retreat, is it half a day on Friday? Have we got, does it start in the afternoon on Friday?
Excuse me?
The retreat.
Retreat.
What I understand, you guys had decided it would start with dinner as the normal, what you've done in the past, and then the meeting in the evening.
Okay.
And we've got rooms reserved, it's all within our per diem rate. And then two meals on Saturday, ending about 5.
Right.
Now, Christina,
Yes.
remember we talked about getting that consumer representative from Family Preservation?
We did.
Can we get her on that Friday night?
We will do our best.
That would be a great thing to do then, I think, right?
Yes. That was very powerful.
I missed it, but it's a presentation that was done in Pinehurst by, I don't even know her story, to be honest with you.
It's a person that does work through family preservation and some other things. Very, very powerful consumer story, but also really, I think it's a great way to jumpstart this new board process. To, stay focused on people. So,
We really need to have a conversation about our bylaws.
Yes.
Yeah, to the airport.
I've got copies of Western's and ours. I've started looking at them. I don't know what we want to do, but we need to address the number of things hinge on the bylaws.
Yep. Maybe Jay, I don't know how you, but maybe Jay and I could get together and work on kind of seeing what we can do to at least present a draft set of bylaws for you all to consider.
Okay.
With that, to kind of get the ball rolling.
That's what we need.
Okay.
Okay. And then the agenda for Saturday, I think it'd be great to do that Friday night. And then Saturday, some combination of probably Tracy and me talking about, there's a lot of this is just kind of the more the technical and the law and what's this all about and what are your responsibilities, and then there's kind of more of the public policy and what our culture is and, the softer kind of aspects of it, and then,
So I get the boring
Yeah.
technical law stuff.
I'm
You get the
Good stuff.
He's a touchy
You
feely.
get the touchy-feely stuff?
I'm a rock star, Tracy. Just remember.
So remember that. He wears a big star.
Yeah, you get to have some fun. I had a conversation with, I think most of you know Dan Coughlin, right?
Yeah.
Over the years has kind of touched us in a couple of different ways, and, he's doing a lot of consulting now for the council, for Cardinal. He actually works for Centerpoint. And just has such a good kind of global perspective on all of this, that's going on. He would be a good person to hear from, almost kind of that 30,000, 50,000 foot, what's going on in healthcare? How are we, are we just like the rest of healthcare? And I know he's, you know, he's real familiar with us, and a lot of you are with him, maybe having him be part of something too. We talked about that.
I don't know if he'd be the perfect person, but I'll tell you what I would love to hear as we go. I mean, there's still so many changes going on. I'd love to hear kind of an overview of what we might expect legislatively this year, and what the big issues are that we may be, whether on an individual basis or whether collectively as an organization, that we might want to be involved in legislatively. And particularly at that 30,000 foot level,
Yeah.
you know, the big picture. Me personally, I'm the big picture kind of guy that, you know, sometimes we get so in the minutia that I need to see that where we're at up here.
Well, it's gonna be really interesting because, the secretary's report is due March 17th. So that means that's before our second board meeting. So by the time we have our second board meeting, we will have the secretary's plan, which will probably, at least to a certain extent, be the guiding document that we're all gonna
There's a
have to
real
work
discussion
in.
point anyway.
Yeah.
But there's probably some things floating around that people suspect between the legislature and the secretary's office that people think might be happening, or things that should be happening. You know, whether it's
Yeah.
happening or not, it should be happening.
Yeah.
And I'd love to, you know,
I think some
things that are
combination.
dangling out there that somebody should be noticing
Yeah.
these, you know, things out there.
Some combination of Danny and probably Lanier too, you know, he's still very close to the beat.
Not to get too caught up in the details, but still, back in the bylaws, just one more time, one thing we will need to do is, remember, in the bylaws, we form executive committee, have our vote on our board, on our officers, and we need to do all that really before our March meeting, so we need to do that. That all during that, and maybe we talk about bylaws on Friday and do something on Saturday, I don't know, but something need to do all that.
Yeah, maybe.
Because we
If
know.
I remember, am I still the, trying to remember, am I the?
In charge of all of that.
Person, we'll see, all that'll change, so we will be able to.
Let's change it on your board.
That's true, that's true.
Well,
So,
if Jay and I can get a draft of the bylaws to you and we present that Friday night, then kind of let people have an opportunity
Yeah.
to digest it and think about it, and maybe at your, sort of your final action to vote on
right,
the bylaws,
Yeah.
vote on
So we got-
officers.
There you go.
right. So as we move forward, we need to sort of have a, right.
I think that's it.
Motion to adjourn.
Before I forget, you guys, both you guys signed this.
Oh, yeah, it's done.
Okay.
Right,
We
Jill,
didn't even
finances.
talk about that. The Western Board this morning unanimously supported this, so. it's officially done.
Thank you,
Any
Chuck.
opposed, seconded, motion. Everybody was unanimous.
And also,